Morning. I would ask how you're all doing. I don't really need to because I already know the answer. I'm not really going to enjoy this show. You're not really going to enjoy the show. It's not going to be a good week. It's just not a good season. There's not much good, really. You can look at any direction at Manchester United right now. Absolute humiliation yesterday in the derby. Another 3-0. Well, just a 3-0 defeat against City. Could have been, should have been more if it wasn't for Andre and Nana. And it's just another game where, wow. Humiliation is the only way you can describe that. And questions are rightly being asked about Erik Ten Hag. I've got more questions yesterday than I've probably ever had at any point so far under his tenure. And we're going to look. I've spent about an hour and a half trying to get this show organized and sorted. There are so many different talking points, scrutiny coming from every direction on every single player. And things get laid bare after a defeat like that in a game like that. And it happened under plenty of managers before, and it's going to happen to Erik Ten Hag as a direct consequence of that. And I think it should as well. I don't think it should. It absolutely should as well. You know what the drill is in this live show every single day. It's interactive. You send in your comments. I will try and react. If you're going to try and troll me and just kind of throw away comments, I'm not going to get involved with you. If you want to pose a question, something that can actually genuinely lead to a conversation, then you can get involved in the comments. And I can tell how the comments are going to be today, but that was just a little bit of a pre-warning from me. Let me see who's down here from the member community. Good morning to you, Lone Wolf, Carl, Sandman. We've got Andrew, Rofi. We've got Mark Andrew Paul. We've got Andrew Elvin. We've got who else down here? PJ. We've got DP. Daniel, how you doing? Jack. Fizz, man. Wow, look at that. Gifting 5 memberships. And even I feel broken today. I feel properly broken after that game yesterday. It's going to be the quietest gong in the world. Look, some of you down there are mentioning Roy Keane's comments on the captaincy. I'll be speaking about. I'll tell you what I'm going to run through here. I'm going to run through my opinion on Ten Hag, Gary Neville's opinion on it. Also, some quotes from Ten Hag, which have come out this morning, which may well be some of the kind of most worrying, probably most concerning comments I think I've seen from Ten Hag so far. We'll speak about Bruno and the captaincy. We'll speak about Anthony. We'll speak about Manchester United's transfers. We'll speak about the game yesterday and the tactical decisions. There are so many things to talk about. Jordan, you're saying do a poll on Erik Ten Hag. And this is one thing I want to say right now. That right there is not in any way, shape, or form the correct thing to do. Okay? People seem to be extremely definitive. The internet loves definitive opinions. You're either in or you're out. Ten Hag in or Ten Hag out. And it's just it's so simplified, and it's not that at all. It's so much more nuanced. Does Erik Ten Hag deserve criticism? Yes. Should his job be under question? I think yes. I mean, you can't, as a Manchester United manager, lose 5 out of 10 games, play the way we're playing, without questions being asked about his job. But to try and just slam it as Ten Hag in, and it's basic. It's the Sun comment section. You can be better than that. We can all be better than that. But my word, I've got so many questions after that game yesterday. And of all the kind of stats I've seen can you remember what Manchester United did at home last season? Lost against Brighton. And then we beat every single other team. City, Liverpool, Arsenal. Well, not beat. We didn't lose to them. We beat City, beat Liverpool, beat Arsenal. We've been ahead for 29 minutes this season at Old Trafford. That is a staggeringly awful stat. Just as is losing 5 out of your opening 10 games. And this is why people are going to correctly be questioning quite a lot about Erik Ten Hag. And I'm going to get into it now. All right. This is this isn't even. It's not even the therapy room anymore. I don't even know what to call this place. Should we call it the pub? It's a place you can go and get obliterated and forget about your problems. I wish I could go there instead of talking about Man United right now. Oh my god, jeez. Right, let's see what we're down here. Sam, just say it as a true United fan that you claim you are. We all know that the manager is clueless and out of ideas. Simple. It's so simple. Razak, in you go, mate. There you go. You go manage Manchester United. I didn't realize it was so simple. Thank you very much, man, for correcting me on that. I feel so much more clued up now. Jordan, I'll talk about VAR later, but it will be massively disingenuous of me to even mention VAR for the first 15, 20 minutes of this show. As much as I feel it massively impacted that game yesterday, and I'm furious about it. Yeah, there are so many more important talking points than that. Jibak, you're saying, Sam, do you ever feel our players or staff get away with gross underperformance due to the Glazers? Sick of the excuses for basic lapses on the pitch? I'm going to go on to speak about the overall ownership of our club. I'm not going to speak about the overall ownership of my club, but it's just I've got a pretty absolute opinion on that, and I'll run through that. I don't think people use the Glazers as excuses, but it's about root cause analysis of the problems. And if you look at last season, and I think that's why I had this prep for a little bit later in the show. Let me see if I can get this quote now. Not this quote, this picture. I remember this. I was at that game. I was at that game against Newcastle in the League Cup final. And I remember the positivity we had. Remember United post World Cup? My word. Rashford was the most informed player probably in world football. Man United beating City at Old Trafford. Man United beating Barcelona over 2 legs. Manchester United beating Newcastle in the League Cup final. It felt like something left our team. Like they all, like the players or the manager or something just felt, oh, yeah, we completed it, man. We won the League Cup as United. That's it. We've done. Because we've never been the same since then. And Erik Ten Hag hasn't as well. It's what I mean. He deserves some serious scrutiny and criticism from that game yesterday, because I think tactically he got it so unbelievably wrong. But there's one quote going around from yesterday. Well, there's more than one quote, actually. One quote from Guardiola on the secrets of his success. Well, I can give you 115 reasons why the secrets of success at City. But he's saying, look, we are in the same direction. Me, the CEO, the sporting directors, the chairman. And just here we go again and again and again and again and again. The exact same conversations around managers, the exact same problems that still exist behind the scenes at Manchester United. And until those problems are resolved, I don't know why I'm singing this. Like, oh my God, I'm so bored of it. I'm so utterly bored of it. Go on, everyone. Let's sack Erik Ten Hag. Who are you bringing in? First of all, you don't really have an answer to that. B, I know, sit down here, ladies and gents. Spoiler alert. All right. That manager will then go on a period of positivity where Manchester United look a little bit better. It might even peak with maybe a little bit of a trophy. Maybe. Not sure, maybe. But then eventually, the same problems will resurface. Manchester United post Sir Alex Ferguson. There's your thesis on it. But that being said, look, while Gary Neville is right here, okay? And this is the thing, right? Like, pretty much all of you are going to have fair points to make. I'm not saying that and this is the thing, there is not one definitive right or wrong thing to say about this. In terms of if your scorn is towards the players, you're going to have some justification for that. If your scorn is towards Erik Ten Hag and his tactics and his lack of identity, you're going to have some justification for that. If your scorn is towards the Glazers and the ownership, well, you know what I think about that? You're going to have some justification for that. There are just problems everywhere. Problems just manifest themselves in absolutely every place at Manchester United. It's not really like one element or facet of the club or the team where you could look at with utter confidence and go, you know what? I've got complete belief in that. And that's a problem unto itself. I'm going to go and I'm going to try and read a few of your comments out down here and see what you're saying. Carl, I'm fully Ten Hag, but I can't get behind Mount and Anthony signing so far. I mean, look, mate, if you look at that yesterday, how can you possibly have £145 million worth of signings in 2 players going into the derby and they both sit on the bench? Man, our recruitment. Look, the reason that when it came to last summer and our recruitment policy, I was going to bring this up towards the end of the show, but we'll bring it at the start of the show here, right? Our recruitment policy last season was, who do you trust, Erik? Who do you know, Erik? That's why we went after the likes of Anthony. We went after De Jong. We got Malacia from, was it Feyenoord? Who else did we get last summer? Martinez, of course. Christian Eriksen came in on a free. Because we had no structure in place, and here we go. These are the problems. You might not want to hear them, but it's like fuck me. If you have not learned at this point the fundamental problems and the structures behind the scenes at Manchester United are core and fundamental to the issues that this club has, then you never will. Like at this point, you just never will. And there is no point arguing with you, or no point debating with you. So you genuinely think that sacking a manager and bringing in a new manager, it's going to be the solution. Yeah, Man United back on top, going to win it all. It's just not possible. It's not possible. However, my word, these signings, man. I'm struggling to think about what happens next. And I think that's the question that I think I'm going to be asking in my lunchtime video, because there's a quote that's come out this morning, and this is, in my opinion, this is quite a brutal quote. All right. Ten Hag was asked, I think this was on Dutch television, which is why we didn't really get the quote until this morning. He was asked, when will you be able to play the same football with United that you showed with Ajax? He said this: never. We will never play that football, because those were different players. This is also not why I came here. We are playing different football than I showed at Ajax because I have to, because I can't play the same way. The players decide how you play. Ajax is a very typical and characteristic style of play. With Manchester United, I will always show different football. I did so last year as well. We play much more direct football here because I have the players for here. And that one is a bit of that's a cutting comment from Erik Ten Hag. And I suppose it basically underlines everybody's problem they have with the lack of identity in this team. When Ten Hag came to United, I remember doing all the videos and I was so excited about his philosophy and the way he played. When Pep Guardiola came into Manchester City, did he look at what the manager had done before, what the club had done before, or did he say, well, it's time for me to roll my sleeves up, not roll your arms up, and get this team playing in a Pep Guardiola style? That's what he did. And that's what I always thought that Ten Hag was doing. Now, I've done that. I did the video about the tactics this season. The fact that Erik Ten Hag, it looked like he was going to be switching towards playing with 1 number 6 and 2 number 8s, playing with a really aggressive, high pressing system. And he said he wanted to make Manchester United the best transition team in the world. So for him to say here, look, we will never play that way. We've got different players. I mean, let's be honest. You've got quite a few of the players from Ajax. We've got Anthony. We've got Martinez. I thought that we have been signing from a profile perspective. Have I been completely wrong this whole time? I thought we were signing from a profile perspective to build a team that was very capable of playing out from the back with the ball, to be comfortable in possession, to be comfortable under the press. A lot of the fundamentals and cornerstones of Ten Hag's philosophy at Ajax. Because I thought that was Ten Hag's philosophy. Kind of what he's suggesting there is that he was playing that way at Ajax because he was at Ajax, and that he'll play this way at Manchester United because he's at Manchester United. I'm deeply concerned about that quote. I'll be completely honest. That's one that sort of stood out to me this morning. There's a couple of super chats. Let me read these out. Not everything I'm going to say today is going to be perfect, by the way. All right. I'm reeling from that game. I can see people criticizing me in the comments. It's going to be a long week. It's going to be a long, long week. Ryan Reynolds, not that Ryan Reynolds. What are you saying, Ryan? What do you think is wrong with the enthusiasm at this club? It's a poor product we put on the pitch. No one has any heart or fire in their bellies. Everyone stands around. I don't know. Look, Ryan, I think I've gone past the point now of like focusing on like hunger and desire and energy and stuff like that. It's just like technically they're just not good enough from a being just a genuinely good footballer. Like being able to spot a pass a couple of seconds before anybody else does, or having the technical capabilities with the ball at your feet that you don't just treat it like a hot potato, and that you can put a pass in a gap that's small and might be seen as a dangerous pass, but if you've got the quality, you'll drive it through. Of course, energy and desire and hard work. We all know that. Like talent is nothing but that hard work. It's just like United are just failing. I think Roy Keane said it right. Let me see if I can pull this quote up. I was going to mention this later, but I'll mention it now. It's this. Like absolutely every aspect of Manchester United is what I mean right now. Like everywhere you look, every aspect, it's just falling. Whether it's the tactics, which I'm going to be speaking about next, okay, and that's where I think Erik Ten Hag made more mistakes against that in that 11 and the substitutions and the tactics against City than I think he's made in any other game. Man, it was an absolute calamity. And then I look at the technical qualities of these players, and then I look at Manchester United in that game there yesterday, right? We had 2 chances in the first 5 minutes. We had 1 chance in like 90 seconds into the game where McTominay, head down, just running towards the goal, like a simple pass to Højlund would have left him completely through on Ederson on his stronger left foot. But instead, he keeps his head down. He drives. He fumbles a shot. And then Højlund, a little bit later, not too much later, kind of did the same thing. He should have put McTominay through, but he didn't. Man. I don't really. The thing that this is what I'm going to do for my lunchtime video. I'll tell you what it is, right? Because I kind of already know. This idea, this here about Ten Hag and the fact that he's not going to play the Ajax way and blah 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 blah. Right? Ten Hag in these last few games. Let's pull this up here. That's the wrong one. Ten Hag in these last few games has tried to switch to a pragmatic style. Okay. We can all talk about the identity, but in these last few games, it's just been like, let's just batten up the hatches, do whatever you possibly can. I do not care how ugly it is. Just get a win. That's how Man United have played against Brentford, against Sheffield United, and against Copenhagen. And it worked in those 3 games. We got the results. Because at that point, he was in a results-focused mindset. And that's where I think he got it like massively wrong against City. All right. Let's speak about the game. That 11 there, I mean, as soon as you saw that 11, you were like, today's going to be a bad day. You saw that 11. It wasn't like an over exaggeration. It's just you look at that 11, you go, we're going into the City game with Evans and Maguire as our two centre backs, with Lindelof at left back. So 3 bang average centre backs. Right, okay, that's a good start. You're then looking at a midfield of McTominay and Eriksen, neither of which are going to give you that sort of. There has been a trend in football over the last, I don't know how many years. I'll call it like maybe four, something like that. Anyway, I'm sure somebody can do a more in-depth video on this than I can sort of explain here. But there has been a trend in football to switch to a more physical style in the Premier League. Now, Pep Guardiola at City, of course he has absolutely nailed that. If you look at City's team now with Rodri, you've got Diaz there, you've got Haaland, you've got Stones, there are so many others, like physically imposing players, but in terms of how they operate as well, ball carriers. Physically strong, ball-carrying midfielders are at like the center of every top-level successful team in the Premier League, I would say now. And Man United have completely fallen short of that. In sort of identity, and Ten Hag, I think, has fallen short of that. And from a tactical perspective yesterday, somebody let him know in the comments below here, right? I'm genuinely curious as to what your theories are. What tactic could it have been to start Evans ahead of Varane? Genuinely, I really am curious to know that, because I've just been thinking, is it the fact that Evans could more naturally sit on the left side of defence from a shape and a build-up perspective? Possibly, but then he was passing to Lindelof, and United just didn't have anything down that side anyway. I'm genuinely curious. Chris saying he's just come back from injury. He's made of biscuits. Varane is not fit enough. Well, if Varane wasn't fit enough, then Ten Hag would have said, no, Varane wasn't fit enough, right? Surely. He specifically said it was to do with tactics. No? I mean, lots of you are saying down there it's to do with injury, but that is not what the manager has said. The manager has said it was a tactical choice. And I just can't get my conversation around the idea of what that tactic would have been. Saving for the League Cup. Maybe. There's a couple of super chats here. Let me read these out before we move on. I don't want to miss any of these. If you send in a super chat, I think, yeah, I absolutely should read them out. So thank you very much, Spencer. What did you say? All of this stems from club structure. Sport and recruitment is wrong. All cascades down into the on-pitch performance. We need a sporting overhaul. I think you could have said that exact same conversation in 2022, 2021, 2020. Honestly, probably the last 6, 7, probably longer than that, in fact. That statement, Spence, rings true for years and years and years. You know how we banged on about United needing a defensive midfielder. But do you know what's hilarious about that? And I don't know why I'm laughing, because it's really not funny. What I just said there about United, I banged on for years and years and years about United needing a defensive midfielder. By the time that we actually signed one, the requirements for that defensive midfielder had changed. And now your defensive midfielder has to be a physically imposing athlete with ball carrying capabilities to drive through the middle. That wasn't really a requirement of a defensive midfielder a few years ago in the Premier League when I was first shouting that we needed one. And now that we got one in Casemiro, his profile doesn't actually fit the requirements of a defensive midfielder in this Premier League at the very elite level. I'm not talking about when when you're playing Burnley or Bournemouth, blah, 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 blah. We have to try and topple City and Liverpool. Man. I love and hate football, and I love and hate United. It's a serious love, hate. Just currently hate, really. Daniel. Sam, Erik Ten Hag said he wants a transitional team. What makes you think he wants to dominate possession? Now, I know he wants a transitional team. He's gone on record and saying that. I'm saying that philosophy of his identity. When Ten Hag came into the club, I'll tell you the reason I was so excited about it. Not because I thought we were going to win League Cups. I looked at Erik Ten Hag and I saw a manager and a coach who I thought was so like steadfast in his own principles and philosophies that he was going to be the man to truly modernize our football club, right? To truly take us forward. Not for him to come into Manchester United and go, what's the United way? He's thinking, what's my way? How can I get this team to play my way? That's what I thought Ten Hag was going to do. Because if you're talking about the United way, I mean, what the fuck is the United way? Seriously. Fergie played 4-4-2. We were just an absolute team from front to back. If you're looking at how Manchester United, probably the best football we've played in the Premier League was between 2007 2009, when we had that explosive counter-attack. We weren't just a counter-attacking team. Like, we had Ferdinand, Vidic, Evra, and Neville, and Brown, and Van der Sar. My God, our defense was good. We had Scholes, we had Carrick, we had Anderson. Really? We had a midfield that could really control possession as well. And we could play direct football, sure. And we had fantastic players at doing it. But that wasn't, we weren't just a transitional team. It's just that when we needed to be a transitional team, there were probably no better teams at us than doing it. So this concept of United way, I wanted Ten Hag to come in and give us a new modern United way. I wanted Manchester United from Ten Hag onwards to be built in the image of Ten Hag's football. And that the manager who came in after Erik Ten Hag would then bring in a similar style of football, real possession based, but also based in real physicality, because you have to in the Premier League now. And instead, we're just lost. So yeah, this concept of the United way, man, like what is that? What is that? I seriously don't know. 4-4-2 is probably what you might say, but 4-4-2 has not been appropriate in the Premier League for a long old time. Mania, thank you very much, dude. What are you saying? Losing to City is not surprising. They're very painful. As we question Erik Ten Hag's in-game decisions, we need to face a reality that our squad is just not good enough, not to mention the glazing and the structures. Hey, look, dude, right? And this is the thing, like, we finished third last year. We won the League Cup. We got into the FA Cup final. There were a lot of positives from last season. And on top of that, we then spent 200 million plus. We've got a new centre forward. Yes, we've got another midfielder in Mason Mount that Ten Hag wanted. Like, it's exactly who he wanted. And Ten Hag, there's like when he speaks about the philosophies and what he didn't have and what he does and what he doesn't have. He signed the main player that he went after this summer was Mason Mount, right? And he's not starting him in the derby because all of a sudden the philosophy of what he had going into the season about 1 number 6 and 2 number 8s has been thrown out the window for pragmatism. Now, I said that was appropriate for the last 3 games because it was appropriate for the last 3 games against Brentford and Sheffield United and Copenhagen. We got the results just. But to take that same concept into the derby was a massive mistake by Erik Ten Hag. I'm not saying that we should have gone toe-to-toe with City because we would have probably even got more destroyed. And look, it worked. I say it worked. Man United were only 1-0 down at halftime. So technically it worked. I mean, we created some chances. I told you there. Don't need to speak about our finishing and our forwards. I'll speak about them later in the show. The first half, we were kind of City were dominant after the first 10 minutes. And when the game settled down, it settled into the pattern that I think we all expected going into the game. But we were only 1-0 down. And then Ten Hag made what I would consider the biggest mistake yesterday. It's kind of ironic, really, because I was saying, like, how can you possibly spend 60 million on Mason Mount and not start him? It wasn't the fact that Mason Mount came on. It was who he came on for. And the switch that happened, because look, Ten Hag brought Mason Mount on yesterday to make United more offensive. Well, it was offensive to the eyes. But he brought him on to give us more impetus going forward. And for doing that, he took off Amrabat. Now, look, you can have your questions, and I know there are people that do. I think Amrabat is a decent player, and from a profile perspective, there's no way that he should have gone on for yesterday. Like, no way in hell. If I was to choose one of the three to go, if I'm looking at Ten Hag's style in my head, 1 number 6, 2 number 8s, then I'm probably taking off McTominay. It's either McTominay or Eriksen should have gone off. There's no way it should have been Amrabat. And as soon as that happened, Matt, my God, like, United had absolutely no control of that game whatsoever. It was such an odd choice from Erik Ten Hag. And I think yesterday, just the whole, everything that Ten Hag did on the pitch before it, with the 11, with the tactics, they just got it all wrong, man. Like, pretty much. Is there anything that he got right yesterday? Seriously. And this is why I completely understand so much frustration, so much anger, and why Erik Ten Hag deserves to be questioned after that game. As a manager of Manchester United, you cannot do that against City or Liverpool and not expect every single element to be scrutinised. Because it's these sorts of games in managers previously. I remember it was after, what was it with Solskjaer? He got sacked after Watford. But I think it was the Liverpool game that lost it for me with him. I remember David Moyes at Old Trafford. I swear I remember we played Liverpool and City within the space of like 10 days at Old Trafford, and we got spanked in both. And then he got sacked away at Everton after that game. Mourinho, I can't remember specifically what it was with Mourinho, but I think it was the big games as well. It's these big games, and losing like that in these big games, which, yeah, it creates scars that sometimes just can't be healed. Dale, you're saying you can't trust a manager who doesn't trust his own signings. And yeah, Ten Hag definitely didn't trust his own signings yesterday because they didn't fit the style of play that he had in his mind for United yesterday. I'm trying to think of what it even was. Win the ball high up the pitch, try and hit City on a transitional counter, which is what we did at the very start. As I said, the first 10 minutes, we had 2 chances. Oh. What I want to see, and I'll tell you this, right? I'm going to speak about a couple. There's plenty more talking points that we've got this morning. But what I want to see from Erik Ten Hag is this, right? Fuck the pragmatism off. All right? Go back to playing the system that you train these players to play at the start of the season. 1 number 6, 2 number 8s. Play with the aggressive press. Play with a high line. Play with that risk. Go down doing what you wanted this team to do, because Ten Hag fell into that trap in that City game of the pragmatism taking over. Because once you get a few results and you've done that pragmatic style of play, then you kind of slip into it and you go, well, it's worked before, so I may as well just keep doing it. And that's what we did against City. And that's what was just a calamity of a decision. Stick to what you believe in, not what you think is going to get results, because that will not garner long-term growth. It might be a short-term solution, but it won't give you that long-term growth. I want to see us go against Newcastle with the same style that we went in the game against Wolves. We might come off the wrong side of it. We might lose to a Newcastle team, which are pretty in form. Yes, they may have lost against Dortmund and they drew against Wolves, but Newcastle, they're a good team. Lightning Gomez, you're saying you can't play that with these centre-backs. Well, just don't do it with a high press then. Do it with a mid press. Right? Bring that press a little bit deeper if you want to, so that makes it so you can stay more compact. But do not just stick to this pragmatism, because it's going to be that will just be a death by 1,000 cuts for Erik Ten Hag. Yeah, the injuries have hurt us, man. No doubt. No doubt. Martinez and Shaw in particular. But Ten Hag can't just abandon any sort of concept of philosophy or principle and hope that that helps him save his job until the injuries come back. Because look, it is the 30th of October. All right. Martinez isn't going to be back until the new year. I don't know. Luke Shaw, sod knows when Luke Shaw's going to be back either. But yeah, I just want to see Ten Hag go for it. And yeah, yesterday, by the way, right? And I can understand why Ten Hag was like, well, the game changed after this. Like, that exact foul happens at least 3, 4, 5 times, like in every single Premier League game. Like every game. Every single one. Yet Michael Oliver looks at it and goes, I tell you what, it's a penalty this time. It's an look, you can pull that up if you want as a direct comparison between Haaland and getting the foul against Rodri, but not against Arsenal. But it's a proper joke of a decision, man. And I hope it now sets a precedent. So every single game in the Premier League now, we're going to get a penalty because of this, because it happens every single game. Probably every single corner that exists in the Premier League. Like, I mean, how many times have I got to say this sentence? But I hate VAR and what it is doing to modern football. Modern football is just, it's so sanitized compared to what it was before. It was just a game of football before. Who's a better team? Who scored the best goals? Nice. It's so much more than that now. Rodri knew what he was doing. If you watch anything, and that's one thing, geez, I agree with Jamie Carragher on that. I think he said it a couple of weeks ago about watching stuff in real time. Because if you put anything in slow-mo, man, it looks bad. Rodri spinning twice, hands in the air, knew exactly what he was doing. It was a joke. And look, after this game yesterday, you should expect this, right? After you lose against your biggest rivals, there's scrutiny on absolutely every single element. Bruno Fernandes now, Roy Keane. Look, man, first of all, don't play Bruno on the right fucking wing. I mean, how many times have you got to say that? Stephen, you're asking about the podcast. I'm going to ask the lads if we can do a podcast tonight. I was away last week. I was going to try and get a new podcast in before the City game, but I wasn't able to. So it feels like tonight will be a good time if they can do it. So I'll try and get it out. And Bruno Fernandes, man, you know how much I admire him as a footballer for how much of a positive impact he can have on the team. But when he does have a negative impact, I understand those that don't feel that Bruno Fernandes should be captain. But my question to you here is brilliant. Okay, right, I'll get Erik Ten Hag sacked. Okay, who are you bringing in? What is your plan? Bruno Fernandes, I'll get rid of him. He's not Manchester United captain. Then who the fuck are you making captain? Who on earth are you giving to the who on earth are you giving the armband to at Manchester United? Wasn't it? Was it this like about 6-7 months ago? I think we all sat there and said, "Isn't it nice you can see as a Manchester United fan?" And it feels like there are quite a few players in this team where you can be like, "Yeah, man, you could be captain. Casemiro, you could be captain. Martinez, you could be captain." And then you look at this team now, and you look 6-7 months down the line, you're like, "Who on earth? Who on earth would you give as captain?" Martinez for captain. Well, yeah, great. Our captain's going to be injured for the next 2 months and not playing for us. Brilliant. What about Casemiro? Well, he's injured. He's also bang out of form this year. What about, I don't know, Eriksen? Varane? Sick note. Come on, somebody. I'm listening. Give me options for captains of Manchester United, because if you really want to go after Bruno Fernandes, and lots of you, as I said, that sort of his petulance when losing still hasn't got on top of that. Someone just say Johnny Evans. Someone's saying Onana now. Geez, a couple of games ago, you were ready to just boot Onana into the ocean. And now you're saying Onana is captain. My word. This is the thing. The thing about modern fans, not just you, but just in general. So people, it's so easy to criticize and point the finger at something. But as soon as you try and say, okay, present me a solution then, zip. Absolutely zip. Which is what makes it frustrating. Shaw could be captain. Yep, Shaw, who's on the sidelines. Brilliant. You see the problem here. You see the problem. There's a couple more super chats. Let me read these out. My God. Jack, you're saying, when will Ten Hag stop playing players out of position? I'm losing it with Bruno on the right. Oh, man. Bruno out on the right wing. You've got a number 10 playing as a double pivot midfielder. You've got a box-to-box midfielder playing as a double pivot midfielder. I don't know what he's doing. That's what I mean. He made a lot of mistakes. You're saying Erik Ten Hag is known as a tactician. He has tactically failed every time against top 10. He needs to focus only on football and accept help on other fronts. Jibak, I don't think it's about accepting help on other fronts. The help just isn't there when it comes to all the problems that he's dealt with, everything behind the scenes. I would imagine what could have happened at Manchester United if Erik Ten Hag came in and was just able to be the tracksuit manager that he is. A man who focuses on nothing else but the football. He wakes up every morning and goes, right, all I've got in my in tray today is what happened at the weekend. What can we change on the training pitch? Lovely. That's all I need to do as a manager. Brilliant. All I need to do as a manager is manage my football team and how we play football. Brilliant. Not at United. Ronaldo this, Anthony that, Sancho this, Greenwood that. Just fireworks everywhere, distractions everywhere, and nobody to take any sort of responsibility. Anthony, you sent a super chat there, dude, but you didn't actually fire anything in. Saying Onana had a good game. Shame about defense. He did have a good game, man. Last couple of games, if you're looking for a positive from yesterday, you're looking at Onana. Only for the fact that he saved us from another humiliation against City. And you're saying Casemiro was critical last season to the point where he was his dreaded absence. Do you think our season would be different if he carried his form over? Yeah, I do. And but in the same way, I think Ten Hag's whole tenure would have been different had we signed De Jong in the very first place instead of Casemiro. And it's just that this Manchester United squad still is take one or two players out and everything just. But even if everybody was fit right now, like if everybody was fit, it would be different, right? Because we'd have our defense and we'd have far more. But this is football, man. Like De Bruyne the City don't have De Bruyne right now, who's arguably their best player still. And they did that to us yesterday. Nick, you're saying we've had 3 managers, the constants of the players, same overall, and the Glazers, there is no quick fix. Oh, jeez. I don't know how far away we are from City anymore, man. What are we saying down here? Right. Here we go. I'm just going to go and read a few of your comments out now. I appreciate everyone sending super chats, but not everybody can. Carl, you're saying Bruno's a much better captain than anyone that United has. That's why it was taken away from Maguire. McTominay to be captain. I don't know if that. I'm guessing that's a troll. I'm guessing so. I'm hoping so. I'm seriously hoping so. Kings, please answer me this. With this current team, who do you think is fit enough to play for Pep City? What kind of crap question is that? How does that present any sort of solutions for us? Oh, let's make a City United combined 11. Yeah, brilliant. That's going to really help conversation. No, it doesn't do anything at all apart from create engagements, interactions, and angry arguments. Go to the Sun, the Daily Mail comment section if you want stuff like that, man. You're not going to get it on United People's TV. Mount is captain? Wow. I tell you what, we are begging for it. We are begging for it in these comments down there. Hey, again, like, if you're looking at, I can't remember specific examples last year, but if I remember correctly, Man United had more goals from substitutes than the majority of teams. Ten Hag subs consistently changed the game for the better for Manchester United last season. It's the total opposite this season. Man, everything feels like the total opposite. All the positives we had and the upward trajectory that we were on, it's all flipped and it's in the complete opposite direction. We are trending downwards. Erik Ten Hag is trending downwards. As it stands, right? As it stands, Erik Ten Hag is looking far more likely to be the last managerial victim of a club without a structure before Jim Ratcliffe comes in than he looks at being a manager who's going to be turning things around. Because this isn't a one game thing. This isn't even a 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 game thing. Was it? We're 10 games into the Premier League right now. It's the end of October. And there's no discernible anything about this team. And a lot of it, Erik Ten Hag has signed. We've somehow managed to get worse. Yeah, the injuries have been cruel, really. Kind of cruel. Ben saying, what's our next Prem game? Fulham away, which I'm going to. I'm not really sure. No, I enjoy going Fulham away. But man, did you see this stat before the game? Oh my God. How bad? How bad can you possibly be in front of goal? Yeah, you're looking at it going, that must be wrong. It's not wrong. It is not wrong. And you're like, and again yesterday, the Edison save from McTominay was unreal. I don't know how he got such a strong arm behind that. The ball should have just gone through his wrist and into the goal. But just all season long, I know we've had problems, but my word, if we had just buried some of the chances that we have created, and I suppose every team can say that. Sometimes the problem is creating chances in the first place. And United certainly aren't creating enough chances, but we are creating chances every game. We're just not taking them. And if we get a goal in that first 10, 15 minutes against City, it changes the focus of the whole game. Look, people, I'll be honest, I don't know what happens next. My personal feeling is that Erik Ten Hag, if he does not change away from this pragmatic approach, this will be the end of Erik Ten Hag. Okay, I thought the pragmatic approach against Brentford, Copenhagen, and Sheffield United was justified for the results that it created. But they were nothing but a short-term gap between where United were at that time and where United wanted to be. Ten Hag needs to step away from that pragmatism right now, or he's going to get himself the sack, and he will get sacked. Because if you're talking about the United way, that is the total opposite. Jonathan, you're saying pragmatic. If he is playing Evans and Maguire, then it has to be. I think there's some logic in that as well. Man, let me make sure there's nothing else going on. Gungshi, I can see you there, man. Even on days like today, the community comes through. There's 10 of you that can now join into the Discord members chat. Look, if you'd like to, seriously. It's a friendly place. It really is. I'm not sure what sort of element you could say that you're happy with at United right now, because there's pretty much nothing. We've got Newcastle on Wednesday in the League Cup. 8,000 Geordies, I think, are going to be at Old Trafford. At least it's not at St James's Park. But then saying that, have you seen United this season? Our club is a mess. My video today is going to be like on what I think Ten Hag can do and has to do going forward from right now, going into the Newcastle game. All right. Football. Love-hate relationship with United, and there is a lot more hate than love right now, that's for sure. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'll be here. It does make it easier. Well, not easier. It does make it better to be able to talk about it in the morning like this. Kind of sets you up for the rest of the week. But yeah, then we've got Newcastle on Wednesday.